On this episode of Getting Scarried Away, we're talking about the Saw franchise. We each give our own personal rankings of our favorite films in the series, and we also talk about those famous traps. We hope you enjoy. Hello again.
Another new episode of Getting Scarried Away.
That is us. Hello, my name is Ricky.
And my name is also Ricky.
And we are here to tell you about the Lord and Savior.
No, we're not. We're here to tell you about someone who played God.
What? What are you talking about?
Well, the episode that we're going to do today.
Oh, okay. How I interpreted that, I thought you literally
was
meant
like Jesus Christ Superstar.
Well, I thought you were trying to tell me that Tobin Bell once played God in like a cameo role in some like Russell Crowe fucking movie.
But in a way, he played God.
I suppose you're absolutely right. Also, here's to you, listener/watcher. We appreciate you. This is not alcohol. This is an orange pineapple Wegmans seltzer.
You didn't have to justify yourself. You're over 21.
I sure am, but I'm holding myself accountable because I'm trying to slim some of that beer weight down.
All right. So we're going to do something a little bit different. I guess I'm going to do something a little bit different that we've never done before on this
I'm so excited about that
show. So for those of you watching, again, the surprises just keep coming. You're going to get an extra special treat today. I'm going to be doing... If this one goes well, I will continue to do this. But for now, I'm going to be doing a painting today live while we do this episode. And I'm just going to paint what I can. It's going to be Saw related. For this one, I'm sure you can guess it's going to be Billy the Puppet.
Hey.
So I'm going to try to do something. If this works out, like I said, it'll be related to the episode that we're doing. I'm going to do a painting, and I'm only going to paint in the amount of time it takes us to finish the episode. So it's going to end up being like 45 minutes by the time I start it. So I have not started. For those of you watching, this is my blank piece of paper. For those of you listening, I'm sure you just heard that. And so then, if you like what I've come up with, we're going to do like a little penny or some sort of small amount started auction on our Instagram.
Yeah, we'll probably start it at a penny.
Yeah. So if you like what you see, then you can buy whatever we come up with.
That's right.
Can't guarantee it'll be good, but it's going to be something.
And we hope somebody likes it for what it is. It's going to be great. It's going to be excellent.
Even if it's a penny, that's okay.
So, but yes, we are really excited to talk about this film. That's one for me.
This film.
This one film franchise, because I know it's your favorite.
It's definitely up there. It's
Okay.
one of my favorite franchises ever. There are definitely some films that are not my favorites,
Some
but
stinkies.
very stinkies.
I appreciate the movies for what they are. I think they're super entertaining.
You don't have to lie. We were going to try to watch all of them.
You are just coming after me today.
We were going to try to watch all of them in preparation for this, and we got through the first one, and Ricky said, I don't know, after watching the first one, I'm just exhausted.
I also had a day.
So we got through two.
I had a day, so watching a heavy movie like Saw, a different kind of heavy, I guess, I was just like, listen, my brain only has so many cells left are working.
We got through two of them.
And
then we just did our own independent research to come up with where we were going to rank them.
Yeet.
So we are ranking the Saw films in honor of the newest of the franchise, Spiral, coming out this week.
I thought you said Spyro.
Spyro?
The dragon. You say Spiral. Interesting.
Spiral?
Well, just then it was Spiral. It was an emphasis. It was a hard I.
Spiral.
spot.
It's that central New York accent.
Syracuse.
Syracuse.
Rochester. But yeah, we figure with the movie coming out now would be a great time to get into these. So why not?
So let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to start painting because
all right.
I'm quickly going to run out of time.
While you do that, I'll give sort of a intro to what we're going to do next. So we are going to attempt to give our ranking of all of the 8 Saw movies. Is it 8 of them now?
Yeah, soon to be 9.
Jesus Christ.
Too many, if you ask me. It's one of my favorites, but too many.
We're gonna get through them. I think we decided we're gonna go through our picks for worst to best. So we will finish with our favorite picks of the series.
Yeah, and we don't know each other's.
I thought you were going to say we don't know each other.
And we don't know each other. So it's going to be really interesting.
I'm Ricky, and I'm very, very into you. So much so that I would love to put a ring on it.
That's weird.
So yes, why don't we get started with our picks? So do you want to give your pick? Rhiannon was adamant that I not see her list. I mean, she was typing it up all day, and anytime I came around the corner or whatever, I was doing laundry or something, she would just
I just didn't want you to see it.
Most of those times I didn't have my glasses on, so I couldn't see anything anyway. So you're safe. You're good. I have no idea what she's got listed. So anyway.
Fine. So
let's hear yours.
Okay, so my number 8, which is my least favorite, I don't think there's much of a surprise here. Saw 3D, or otherwise known as Saw: The Final Chapter. It is absolute trash. I literally don't think that there is a worse movie in a franchise. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Maybe there is. And it's funny because I said to Ricky while we were preparing for this that Saw 8 is so much like a Final Destination movie, which is really interesting because I love the Final Destination movies.
Yeah, I didn't understand what you meant by that.
Well, it was just like that cheap kills, and we'll just make the gore kind of whatever because we just want to do it for the gore.
And plus probably time and budget factored into that, I would think.
But the thing is, Saw is so not like that that it was really disappointing. I mean, Saw is known for, of course, people have probably heard it called torture porn.
Or at least it kind of helped spark that sort of buzzword with Hostel and those kind of things.
So it's just really interesting to take something for some of these movies that are so smart and then be cheap with it like this. I'm not saying that it was cheap to make, but it was just cheap horror.
Some of the films do appear, you can kind of tell when there's been sort of a drop or a dip in budget, I guess, kind of putting that kindly. But yeah, I do feel like this one probably wasn't the cheapest because they had to dump a ton of technology into the whole 3D nonsense, which they probably utilized that gimmick 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I truly wish that the 3D era of movies where they made everything into a 3D movie, even for movies that shouldn't have been. I just wish that never happened.
Except for the Final Destination one I think it was 4.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
We're also biased because we love Final Destination.
Right.
But Saw 3D was also my number 8. I hated it. I thought it was stinky, and it felt like a totally different movie from the whole series, like Rhiannon mentioned. It just felt very out of place. They sort of abandoned a lot of the sort of, I guess, a lot of the style that the Saw franchise came to sort of fall into. They kind of just threw a lot of that out the window in order to kind of go at it with a much more, I don't know, I guess, blood hungry. They really wanted to just pack theaters with people, show them shocking stuff on screen, and then
say,
make their money.
This Saw or this whatever is coming at you. And isn't that cool? We know how to do 3D.
And listen, I can't fault the filmmakers for wanting to do that because it's a business, obviously. Like the movie business is just that. It's a business. It was
the era, and quite honestly, they said people love our movies. They're going to see them no matter what.
Right.
So why not take advantage of this cash cow? Essentially, is what it turned into, and let's do it. And listen, I'm not saying I have some of the later films as closer to my top, so I'm not saying that some of the sequels were not phenomenal. In my opinion, I think that some of my picks might spark a little controversy, so we'll see.
You know, I was going to bring this up later, but we kind of already sort of started to get into it. I feel like this is one of those franchises that maybe even after their first movie, the second or the subsequent films started to kind of turn into a whole different genre than the first film sort of ended up being. For example, something like the Purge series. You know, the first Purge movie was very much, you know, a home invasion film. And the movies to follow were centered around the Purge activities out in the streets and the whole government involvement and all of that kind of stuff, military involvement.
True.
So, and I'm not saying that the, you know, other Purge films were bad. I love the Purge series because it's a ton of fun. But I'm just using that as an example. You know, some of these franchises just go paths that you don't really expect them to go. And I think the Saw franchise is definitely one of those kind of franchises because every movie feels like it's totally its own thing. I mean, it's always very violent and, you know, upsetting, but they always feel like they're kind of stories. They change it up. Some of them are more like, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that that's definitely a fair assumption to make.
But why don't we? I'm also using Rhiannon's phone for my list because.
So you don't want people to think that that's your sparkly phone case with pop socket?
Oh, they can think whatever they like. I'm very flamboyant. But what was I saying? Your phone. Oh,
I think you might have been hinting toward we're going to move on to the next one.
I was, but I also wanted to just mention that I'm going to be fussing with this phone quite a bit because I have to enter the password a lot of times because Face ID does not recognize me as Rhiannon.
True, I should just add your face
for some
over
reason.
there.
I don't know. Anyway, what's your number 7 pick, milady?
My number 7 is Saw 6.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know where that is on your list, but for me, I don't know. It was really interesting. It seemed like they might have just been trying really, really hard to make it personal.
That was like the healthcare.
Yeah, it was like the whole insurance team was and he had to go through and like save certain people from his insurance team and stuff like that.
Got it.
And but not only personal to him, because all of them are personal in a sense, right? Like they've all done like bad things personally, but also personal in the sense that like it was personal to John Kramer. Like John Kramer picked this guy because he didn't accept his insurance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and that's not usually something. And then they tried to justify like some of the previous things by being like, yeah, well, did you know that this guy was like John Kramer's nephew or some shit? Like, you know, they just tried to justify like from previous movies.
Yeah.
That I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like, John Kramer already told us why he did those things to those people. You don't have to come back now and be like, and by the way, he was my brother.
Whoa!
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's funny because Saw 6, I enjoyed much more than other films in the series. It's much higher on my list.
Interesting.
Yeah, but watch it be like my next one. But
it's much higher on my list.
Higher.
It's number 6.
But no, my number 7 pick is Saw 3. And that's because a few reasons. One, the sort of protagonist, I guess, or guy that we follow through the movie, Jeff, is the fucking worst.
Yeah.
He's the worst.
He is the worst.
He's just angsty and just whiny, and he is very we always reference Dead Meat. So if you haven't checked out Dead Meat by now, from listening to us, just go check out Dead Meat. But anyway, he does kill counts on all these movies, and he tore Jeff to shreds because holy shit, this character's the worst. I'm sure the actor is a very nice gentleman. The character was...
I heard he sucks. He like writes to us. Excuse me,
Dear
I do
Getting
not
Scarried
suck.
Away podcast.
Specifically the lady one.
I don't know. He might be confusing us because I have the sparkly phone case.
True.
But yeah, Saw 3, I also found just kind of a little more forgettable than the other movies.
I could see that.
It was, it's still, they're all enjoyable watches for what they are. But Saw 3, just, I don't know. I wouldn't like drop my plans and be like, I would rather just stay home, make some popcorn, and watch Saw 3.
Oh, come on.
Come on. So, yeah, that's my... also, I think that's the movie where we get introduced to What's-His-Fuck for the first time? That detective... Or is that the next one?
Saw 3...
The detective who's
Detective
in, like...
Hoffman. No, I think that's Saw 4.
No, not... he wasn't the detective then. He... Sham something? He... The actor who was... in Gilmore Girls, that guy, that big guy.
Yeah, well, he was a detective, but he's one that died.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, was his first entrance in the franchise Saw 3?
I think it was 4 with Hoffman.
Okay, you might be right. But anyway, yeah.
Honestly, right now, because we did so much like research on them and stuff, they're all blending together.
They are all blending together. But you know what? You mentioned Saw 4. That's my number 6 pick. Is Saw 4.
That's my number 6 pick.
Looky.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you're right. That's the movie where we get introduced to him and Hoffman.
I literally wrote in my notes, Saw 4, number 6, loved some kills, ice block. So that was the one where he's put on...
Oh, Donnie Wahlberg gets...
More Wahlberg. Yeah, that's the one where he's put on the... That's the one where he's put on the ice block. That's just for us. So Saw 4, but then next to that I wrote Detective Hoffman. Boo.
Oh, the fucking worst. Him and the other
worst.
guy. Like, the only cool moment that the other guy, I wish I knew his name, the other guy who did the throat.
This is going to be the most cartoonish Billy the Puppet. I am not focused at all.
It's like the one from Scary Movie 5 or 4 or whatever
Yes.
it was.
It totally is going to be.
I'm loving it so far.
His eyes are so far apart.
No, it's awesome. You're doing great. But yeah, the relationship between those two guys, it's fine. But also, I just find both of those characters to be so despicable. Yeah. That I 2 whole movies with them. Oh no, Hoffman's in a few. He's in
Hoffman's
like
in
4.
way
like
too
that.
many.
Anyway, yeah, they overstay their welcome for sure. So, yeah, Saw 4. I don't really have much more to say about that.
Okay. So that was both of our number 6. My number 5 was Saw 3.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, so I don't really have much to say about it. There were definitely things that I didn't like, but it pulled ahead of the other 3 that I just mentioned. So that's it. That's all I got for that one. A lot of the things that you said about it, I had the same concerns, but there were just some things as far as like plotline goes and stuff. I felt like that was the last one that I truly felt like the essence of the original Saw. You know what I'm saying? Like Saw 1, 2, and 3, I was like, yeah, these are like all the same type of shit. And then 4, it just went off the rails, I feel.
Yeah. I think that's when they started to embrace the whole cash grab element of, or I guess the torture porn kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like they understood what people were coming to the theater to see. So they wanted to sort of ramp that up. Mine was Saw 5.
Wow.
I can't even remember which one Saw 5 was.
Oh. Really? Saw 5?
Yeah, but why did I put that?
So Saw 5 is the one...
That's not the one with Chester Bennington, is it? Oh, no, that was 6.
No, Saw 5 is the one where they really, like, come into their own with the franchise, like, saying... you can all survive this type of thing. So
I feel like they say that in every single one.
It's the one. Yeah, but they really didn't lay it out like straight up in your face. Like, we can all survive this. The arm split.
In the beginning?
The nail bomb. No. The arm split is the very last one. The beginning is the one with the buckets where they have like they all have to run for the key.
That was Jigsaw.
They don't have the buckets. But
it's a similar one where
they don't have the
chains
buckets on
around
their head, but they have to run for the key, and then the one girl gets decapitated.
Yeah, and it looks super silly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that one. I'll be honest too. Like, I knew this was going to happen. I'm forgetting what happened in what movie because here's the thing. This soapbox time. The Saw franchise loves to do flashbacks within flashbacks within flashbacks and so on and so on and so on, and introduce characters
big time
from previous flashbacks that we saw in previous movies, and the whole timeline is just insano. Like, it's all over the map. So off the top of my, I don't have my laptop in front of me. Video listeners, you can tell, but audio listeners, go check us out at Getting Scarried Away YouTube channel. I don't know what our link is, but
if you type in Getting Scarried Away, I think we're the only ones named that on YouTube.
So if you type in Getting Scarried Away, there are like weird videos that are not us. They're like Furby reviews and like all sorts of strange things.
Good. Well, that's fucking scary. So
spooky. But if you type in Getting Scarried Away podcast, you'll likely find us. But also, go to our Instagram. Our link is now in the description. So just click that and you'll get to see Rhiannon painting this lovely Billy the Puppet. For real, you're laughing, but I think it's excellent.
We'll see.
Anyway, but what I was going to say is that this franchise takes left turn after left turn after left turn and tries to juggle justifying all of it almost to a fault. So I know that sounds a bit ranty, but like
they do too many like flashbacks and remember when this happened in this movie, and also like we're going to tell you how it happened, even though we kind of explained how it happened in this one, but now we're going to tell you a different reason. And I think that that's because there were so many different hands in this Saw pot, right? Like, everybody wanted a piece of this franchise,
right?
And because it was so much of like a money grab, I think people were like, oh yeah, well, let's get in on that. Like, we could totally do some shit with that.
Yeah. And then people, if they couldn't get into the Saw movies, if they couldn't like work on those sets, they would just make their own ultra violent mid-2000s horror movie like Hostel, or I mean, that's a bad example because it's a different situation, but like other movies out there that are just sort of responses to Saw.
Right.
Yeah, we should do a Hostel breakdown.
Well, we can,
because you love Hostel, don't you?
Yeah, we can get there.
We'll get there. So what number are we at now?
Well, you just did Saw 5 and I did Saw 3, so we are at number 4.
Numbers are really hard.
Yeah. So number 4 in our ranking. So we're halfway through. My number 4 ranking was Jigsaw.
Mine too.
Interesting. Okay. I'll tell you what my one major flaw is. And this is the type of thing that makes Ricky say, Rhiannon, can you just watch the movie? And I said it out loud.
I already hate where this is going.
And he was like, oh my God. So there is a scene. Well, first of all, right in the beginning, the guy comes out with like the trigger. That's like the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yes.
On the roof. Mm-hmm. And they're like all pointing at him and they're like, shoot the trigger, but the one shoots him and then he ends up in a coma, blah, 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 blah. So then there's a scene where somebody injects him with a stimulant to bring him out of this coma, and they fucking inject it straight into the saline bag, which does not happen. There is a line that attaches to the saline bag, a little plastic tubing that goes directly into your arm or your hand or wherever your IV is, and there's a port specifically for the injection of these types of medications. You can't puncture that bag.
I've never tried. I don't know.
Well, it really just took me out of it, and I was like, you know what? These fucking people didn't even do their research.
They've never tried to drug somebody who was in a coma.
So if you are listening, creators of Jigsaw, you messed up.
We know you are. We know you're listening.
We know you are. We know it. Don't even try to pretend like you're not.
So what? So why is that number 4 on your list? I mean, in terms of, I got to stop doing this.
Well, to be honest,
in terms of like why you enjoyed it.
Yeah, so it was a very enjoyable movie. I thought that they did a great job at kind of bringing it back to the roots of Saw. I think that they saw that.
Hey, did you see Saw?
Shut up. I think they saw that, or they realized that it was really getting off the rails.
Yeah.
Like, especially with Saw 3D, the final chapter, which was most likely not the final chapter because now we have 2 more beyond it.
Yeah.
But I think at a point they looked at it and they were like, why did we do that? We need to do something else to like bring the original lovers of Saw back to us.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what Jigsaw was. I mean, was it flawed? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But did it have a lot of like fun redeeming things? Yeah, I think so. I liked
that. You know, I agree. I do feel like the franchise needed to take a breather because they really were, if you look at like the release dates of these films in chronological order, they're not far apart from each other. Like they were just pooping these movies out like crazy because they were making money. So again, like you really can't blame the studio for wanting to capitalize, but eventually it starts to lose its luster a little bit. So with this new take on the Saw franchise, Jigsaw, it took place 10 years later after the last movie or something?
Yeah, I think so.
So it was it was a much needed breath of fresh air because it needed it desperately because I feel like the franchise was just clinging on for dear life. And 2, you could tell that it wanted to stay faithful to the source material but still give it its own sort of cleaner, modern take on like the practical effects and that kind of stuff, because we started to see these movies utilize CGI so much more, and that's like a huge sin for a Saw movie that's known for its bloody kills and gore and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it was really nice to see.
And very well done practical effects, typically.
Right. So it was great to see Jigsaw go back to using mostly practical. Now, of course, if you've seen the movie, and spoiler alert, if you haven't, just skip ahead like a minute. If you've seen the movie, you'll know that the final kill with the lasers going into the dude's head, that was obviously CGI.
What?
I know. Sorry to break that to you, but and then the when the kid was going down into the spiral drill pit thing,
of course.
Also CGI. But other than
would
that,
have been cool if they could do it practical.
Totally. Oh my gosh. But everything else looked very, very authentic, which, yeah, props to them. Props, no pun intended. But
okay, what was next for you?
I will tell you.
Well, I'll tell you mine while you're getting up there. My number 3 was Saw 2.
Okay. I'm trying to think of the ones that you said already. You don't have to go. You don't have to go through them again.
I'll just do it really quick. Saw 3D, Saw 6, Saw 4, Saw 3, Jigsaw, and now Saw 2.
Oh, so your next one is Saw 5, and then your number 1 is Saw 1.
We'll see.
Not to spoil it, but okay, interesting. So
you don't even know me.
Saw 2. Hi, I'm Ricky Needham. So Saw 2 was your number 3, huh? Mm-hmm.
Is that your number one?
Maybe. We'll see. You don't even know me. My number 3 was Saw 6.
Interesting.
Yeah, I told you it was higher on my list.
Yeah, it was higher. That's way higher than I expected it to be for how much of a trash bag I thought it was.
Well, I thought it was a much needed, kind of similar to something like Jigsaw, right? I thought it was a much needed diversion from the sort of rut that they found themselves in with Hoffman and, well, Hoffman was still part of it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But the other cop, detective, Gilmore Girls guy, he was no longer in it. His character really irritated me. So he was gone. And I thought the take that they sort of went with for the whole plot with the whole insurance company, I thought that was super different. We hadn't really seen anything like that before in this franchise. So kind of seeing how they went about it. Plus, I also thought that the traps were very creative, not in the sense of like elaborate per se, but I thought they were creative because they were more simple, right? That was the one that had the carousel, the shotgun carousel. That's much more simple than something like the, I don't know, an example, like the guy who was in that like thing where his limbs kept turning around.
Sure.
You know, something like that.
Yeah, I
you
get
see that over and over, you almost become immune to it. So kind of stripping it down, going back to a more simple human, high stakes trap, I thought it was way more effective.
Okay, I get it. So you were like, some of these are getting a little outlandish. Like a guy with this many health issues couldn't possibly create all of these traps.
Right. And I also understand, like, it's established that he has a team of people now.
Wow.
With Amanda and with Hoffman.
Yeah, it's established later on that fucking everyone in the city is his apprentice. Like,
Christ. That's, yeah.
That was gratuitous. For sure.
I can't. But, yeah. So I thought that was a really interesting take on a Saw movie, and it was super different.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. What was your number 2?
Number 2, I'll tell you once I unlock your phone. Number 2, this is controversial yet brave.
Saw 1?
Saw 1.
So is mine.
No.
Yeah.
I assumed wrong.
You did. You want to talk about controversial yet brave? That leaves for me my number 1 to be Saw 5.
And mine was Saw 2.
So let's get into it.
I feel like we're gonna get some angry messages.
Hate mail, some straight up hate mail. I'm never listening / watching your show again. You guys are trash. You can't write film franchises. I'm sure we'll get all of it.
Yeah, I can't wait. Nobody's
ever said anything mean to us.
No, never. No, that's literally never happened. We have the best listeners.
Yeah, seriously, no, it never happened. And thank you to the one of you, Colby. That's literally it, for complimenting me on my bangs, because I asked for it and nobody did it besides Colby. So
thanks, Colby.
So totally fine. Not that I feel self-conscious or anything.
Colby's crew. Yeah, listen to the gore score. It's great. But yeah, that's really, really interesting. We're both Saw 1 for number 2.
Yeah, so, and I struggled with this one a lot.
Me too.
I went back and forth because of Saw 1 had one of the greatest twists, I guess you could call it, but endings, really, especially for when it came out. But so here's the thing, and I don't think that you know this about me.
Me or the listeners?
You. Well, I know the listeners. The listeners don't. But I don't think you know this about me. Saw 5 was the first Saw movie I ever saw.
Oh, I didn't know that about you.
So
that changes everything.
It does. So that is what made me actually love the Saw franchise.
Wow.
Like, that's what kind of made me fall in love with it.
So that definitely has a bit more of a...
So for me, when I watched Saw 1 for the first time, because I watched Saw 5, it came out in like 2008, I think. So I was only like 13 or 14 or something. Like, I was pretty young.
Yeah.
So, when I saw that, I was like, oh, I have to go watch all of the other movies in this franchise.
Uh-huh.
And then I go and see Saw 1 and I'm like, oh, that's Jigsaw laying on the floor. Like, this is the first one. So I didn't get like that big, what? Like, he's the killer? I didn't get that experience.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah.
Interesting. That's really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Because I think back too, because you and I we were both, in middle school, high school, when these movies were out and popular and making stupid amounts of money. And when we were that age, it was always super like special when you got to watch something like maybe that you shouldn't be watching, like something like Saw.
Oh, for sure.
So I think there was also...
Well, and at that point, it wasn't like... I mean, maybe there was like on demand and stuff, but you pretty much had to rent it. Like, not to call back to our last episode, but like you had to go rent it. So most of these, I wasn't renting unless my dad rented it for me, or unless I had like a super older friend that definitely probably shouldn't have been hanging out with me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just go into a movie store because they'd be like, this is rated R. Like, you need an ID or something.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, I don't know if it was with Saw necessarily, but I remember watching Final Destination movies when I was that age. Like, kids would have them like at their parents' houses. Why did I say houses like that?
Houses. They would have it at their parents' houses.
And when their parents were gone, we would sneak watching a Final Destination movie. And I would imagine the same thing would happen with something like Saw. So that's really, really interesting. And to that point, we don't really see a lot of mainstream movies like this being made anymore. Or they're being made, but going into theaters. Like, there aren't a lot of like ultra gory, nasty shock factor movies going right into theaters.
And if there are, that's all they are. They're not smart. They're not, like, we're going to make you think about this type of thing. They're just...
shocking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a really interesting time. What a time to be alive. But, my pick for number 2 also was Saw 1. And I obviously think the movie is a lot of fun. It's great. We watched it the other night, and I was probably just in a mood, and I thought it was very long. So
Ricky was like, this movie is so long. And I'm like, well, number 3 is 2 hours.
And I went, no. So, yeah, I think that probably had something to do with where this is ranked on my list. But, yeah, it's a great film. He's great, but Carrie Elways, is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, I think so. His accent. Accent.
You bastard!
Yeah, it just like kept coming through.
It was just in and out, in and out, in and out. I'm like, oh, buddy.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
But listen, it probably wasn't his fault necessarily, because he didn't, pick the clips that they used, right? Like, there probably were takes where, or I could be wrong, maybe those were the best takes, but there could have been instances where he was nailing the accent, but maybe the stakes weren't as high. I don't know. It could be a number of things, but it just took me out a little bit. You made a face. What happened?
I don't know what I'm doing with this.
What do you mean? It looks great. Yeah, it's awesome. Rhiannon.
All right. So let me tell you a couple of my favorite things about Saw 5.
Please. While
we do this, more reasons why it's some of my favorite Saw filming.
I realized that this remote has probably been in frame this entire time.
That's okay. Great, we need to start over.
Filming is hard. Oh, and also, for those of you who watched the video of last week's episode, thank you. But second of all, I did notice that there was a bit of a delay as the video went on. I think it had to do with something. It had to do with the frame rate that I shot it in / the the editing software that I was using at the time. So I apologize that our mouths weren't moving totally in sync toward the end of the video, but hopefully this time around it's different. But regardless, thank you for watching it. I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
And also I wanted to mention that I love Rhiannon and her paintings are great, and you should totally place a bid on this painting. Okay, bye.
Are you done being a little bitch?
I'll try.
Okay, so a couple of things that I love about Saw 5. So, first of all, I love the kind of like it. Though I think that we all know, yes, like anybody could, like all of these people could win and like get out of these things. I really truly think that this is the first time where they're like, I'm going to say it for you. Like in this film, for those of you who have not gotten it, this is the shit. Like all 5 of us could have gotten out of this alive, and here's how.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they kill the one girl and throw her into the bathtub to electrocute her, if they all had just taken a little bit of the electric shock, nobody would have died, and they all could have survived that. If all of them were alive at the end and had given a little bit of blood, I learned a lot from that movie, because they talk about how you have 10 gallons of blood. I think 10 gallons sounds right. Gallon seems like a weird way to measure blood, so now that I'm saying it,
I know it's not 10 ounces.
No, it's definitely not 10 ounces.
We would all be just dropping.
but they each give 5, which is half of their blood supply, which is the most that they can give without dying. But if they had each given 2,
oh yeah,
because there were 5 of them, so if they had each given 2 instead, 1, their hands wouldn't have been mangled as much, and then 2, they all would have really like walked out of there kind of just like they donated blood.
Yeah.
Pints?
Liters?
Google it. How many gallons of blood?
Hey, Alexa, how many gallons of blood are in the human body?
Here's something I found on the web. According to blurted.com, a human body contains approximately 6 quarts, or 5.6 liters, of blood. Did that answer your question?
Well, Saw was an
I think so. Thank you.
Thanks for your feedback.
Here's the thing.
She's
now
great.
We're definitely on a watch list for asking,
oh no, you're right. I didn't think about that.
For asking how much blood is in a human body.
Shoot.
I love it.
Shoot. Sorry, FBI and or whoever is listening.
So forget everything that I just said. I'm usually pretty smart and calculated in my research, but for this one, I just like kind of remembered something of that, and I was like, okay, cool.
If you round up, it's 10.
I don't think so.
What'd you say, 6 liters?
5 or 6?
I already forgot. I was so focused on not getting caught by the FBI for what we just searched. Wow. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. That was really cool, the way that movie ended with the 2 of them.
Yeah, I thought that was something that was really interesting and
very different.
Exactly. Really different, especially with her like kind of going back through and explaining everything, because then, though, again, like you knew that they all could have survived in all of the other movies, you're kind of sitting there thinking back to all of the other movies, and you're like, oh shit, they all could have survived all of this,
Yeah. I suppose there are definitely some instances where there was like no chance in France that any of those people could get out of their situation.
Well, yes, that was intentional though, because that was the era with Hoffman.
Yes.
So though Hoffman was a part of number 5, it was like kind of implied that like Jigsaw had set up those puzzles for number 5. But
and Hoffman was more just like blood hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like the guy who killed his sister, right? There was no way out of that trap. That was the pendulum.
Oh,
So he had to he was laying down. It was in the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
He had to put his hands through, and then his hands got crushed, and it
Oh,
was
that was
supposed to stop the pendulum.
gnarly.
But then the pendulum just kept going and split him in half. So there was obviously no way out of that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I need
that
to
was
refill
wild.
my black paint.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting how they actually demonstrated that, look, see, it's possible. 2 people just did it. They just got out of these traps successfully. They're super duper fucked up afterwards probably, but they did it.
Physically and psychologically fucked up.
Right, for real. And my top pick was Saw number 1. It's great. Oh God, no.
I was like, no, it wasn't. We both picked Saw number 1 for our second.
Incorrect. My second pick, second from the top, is Saw 1. And my favorite pick is Saw 2.
Interesting. So why?
Well, I'll tell you. I thought that after the first movie, I thought that Saw 2, while it maybe didn't have the same budget, I felt that Saw 2 was a very, very ambitious step in continuing the story. It didn't seem ultra similar to the first one. It shared some characteristics like the cop involvement police involvement and the kills and stuff. But like looking back at Saw 1, we never got really drawn out experience or scenes rather where we see people trying to figure out their traps. We mostly see little flashbacks of the victims that Danny Glover finds.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really interesting that the second movie took its time to show how these people react in real time in these scenarios. And again, that's also why I brought up the Purge films, right? Because the whole idea of the Purge is that it's this huge event and it's very large scale and tons of people are going and participating, but we only focus on one family in a confined space for the whole film. That's kind of how I think about it. And then the next movie in the Purge franchise, we actually see the Purge. So
True.
It's a similar situation with Saw, right? So we actually see all of these traps and all of these people's lives and scenarios and what brought them there. I thought it was a much more fleshed out look at what the franchise wanted to be.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think, and we're introduced to the idea that, like, hey, we're going to keep this going because, like, we've got Amanda now.
Yeah.
And, unintentionally, well, I'm sure it actually probably was intentional, but watching them back to back, like watching 1 and 2 back to back, and I would highly recommend, like, if there's a franchise that you really like, try to binge them because it can be, and it doesn't have to be, I'm not saying like binge them all in one day, but like take a week or a couple of weeks and try to watch them all really close together because you do find things and, see things that you might not have seen upon first watch or ever because you're just watching them together for the first time now.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I noticed is, of course, I thought it was weird the first time we watched Saw 1, but Amanda is who ends up, being his little protege, and she's from the first movie. She has the reverse bear trap, which comes back in so many of the movies.
But we only see it in use one time
with
on
his
somebody.
wife,
right? Which
was real full circle.
Yeah. I think it was so shitty that she died, but
well, I do too.
Yeah.
So
especially in that movie, because fuck that movie.
But after Amanda is saved, or I guess saves herself from the bear trap, she goes on to be like, I don't know, it looks like she's in love with him. She's like, he saved me. He saved my life. Like, she wasn't even looking like she was really traumatized by it. She just looked like I really love him and he saved my life. And then we go on to see, of course, later when we learn about his wife and everything, that she was a drug addict who was a patient of his wife.
Yeah.
And she had considered Amanda to be a lost cause because she
Right.
kept, relapsing essentially. And he said that he cured her with this one time of torturing her, which is so fucked up.
It almost seemed like sort of like a Stockholm syndrome kind of scenario. I know it's not that exactly, but
yeah,
you know what I mean? Where this person that put you in so much danger all of a sudden frames it in such a way that they are your savior. Which maybe we should talk about John Kramer, because we really haven't.
Yeah, I think that we should. We still have about 10 minutes, so
Yeah.
we can talk about John Kramer for a second. Yeah, I
I like don't even know where to start because I have thoughts.
I mean, I think that he's very messed up, obviously.
Yes.
But I think that people don't even realize how messed up of a person he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he's playing God, kind of like we said in the beginning.
Right.
And he genuinely believes that he's doing these people a great service by making them appreciate their life.
And putting them in these scenarios to show them, yeah, like you said, the value of life.
And how shitty their lives were before that they could now change because of him.
So, do you think he succeeds? Let me ask you that.
I mean, obviously with Amanda he did, or so it seems.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know, because I think that so many times, I don't know. It's interesting because, so there's the one guy that he supposedly, like, with the bucket on his head.
Yeah.
Who he supposedly, like, has a change of heart and pulls him out and teaches him to be his apprentice.
Jigsaw.
From Jigsaw.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, in that situation, I could kind of see it, because which, first of all, I am not condoning the behavior.
Right.
But I could see how he potentially would have succeeded, because he's sparing his life. Like, he's torturing him to this breaking point where, you are facing death in the face and not facing death in the face. You're like facing death head on.
Yeah.
And now I'm pulling you out of this and I'm saying, see what could have just happened to you? Like, you need to get your shit together. So, like, scaring people straight, but just being like, well, you have 1 hour to change your whole life. Otherwise,
game over.
Right.
Yeah. What seemed, there are so many things obviously wrong with it, but it seems like in a lot of these cases, not all, but in a good amount, a lot of times it's emotionally vulnerable people, which fucking sucks. Like, what was it, Saw 3?
Well, especially like Amanda, right? Like, he's straight up
absolutely
just
with
taking
Amanda.
advantage.
Yeah, totally. And with Saw 3, when he's in the, like the little dungeon side room where they try to nurse him, Amanda and the other lady that ultimately gets killed.
The doctor?
Yes, the doctor. She, he like gets on her case that she like uses depression meds to help.
Yeah, like what?
Manage her depression.
Right, like what the fuck? You should be using depression meds if
100%.
If you need a little like medication, serotonin or oxytocin, it's fine if it comes in a bottle. Like,
yeah,
some people's brains don't make that.
God, so that's like a very real everyday situation that people struggle with. So something like that she would be fucking kidnapped for and like brought into this horrible situation, it just doesn't add up. But yes.
Well, and I will say there was one other one other one that really, really bothered me, and that was the one where the girl blamed her husband for rolling over on the baby.
Oh, God.
Because that girl very obviously had like severe postpartum depression. And of course, that's something that's very near and dear to my heart.
Right.
And so I think that was just like a really fucked up capitalization that they used.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was right at all.
For those listening who maybe don't know, Rhiannon is a birth and postpartum doula.
Working towards becoming a psychologist to
Yeah.
work with individuals with perinatal and postpartum mood and anxiety disorders. And I just, it's something that's very, very real that should not be taken lightly. And this movie just like completely shit on it and was like, this woman killed her baby, so she deserves to be killed. And like, it's absolutely horrible, but more than anything, she deserves real help and not torture. Like, and so I think that was something that really bothered me.
Yeah, things like that and many other examples are where the moral compass that the movie kind of tries to frame these situations in doesn't really line up as much as I think the writers want it to. So all this to say, and I know we shat on these movies quite a bit.
But there were so many good things. There were so many things. It still is one of my favorite franchises. They do, I think that, maybe not now because we have so much horror content out there.
Yeah.
But I think to a point they did something that was really new and fresh and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that they were successful in what they were trying to do for most of the time.
Let me ask you this. What do you want to see out of this new Saw film that's going to be coming out soon? Next week, I think. Or when this comes out, I think it will be
the week of.
The week of, yeah.
So more than anything, as much as I absolutely love him, I don't want John Kramer to be in it.
Yeah.
I know.
I agree.
Or if he is only in like a video or something,
or like they show him in like his grave or something.
Yeah, or like a flashback to the first movie or something would be fine.
I don't even know for me if it would be. I'm so sick of flashbacks.
But yeah, I mean, I really don't want to see them be like, he never dies.
Whoa!
Like, he's really alive. Because I just...
or his twin brother or some bullshit.
Like, he's not Jason Voorhees. He's a regular fucking guy.
Right.
So let's just treat him like a regular guy. He's just like a regular guy trying to serve some vigilante justice.
Yeah, trying. What else? So you don't want to see John Kramer?
But I'm really just keeping things open. I'm excited to see what they do with it. It's a completely fresh face to the franchise, and I think that they could potentially like do some really special things, but I don't really have many expectations because I'm like, it can't be worse than some of the other. It could be, but it almost can't be worse than some of the others.
It has promise because it has a lot of great people attached to it. Of course, that doesn't mean everything, but
it does mean some things.
It does mean some things for sure.
And you know what? Not only like it has a lot of good people, it has a lot of, like you said, the right people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like, oh, well, that person's like a really good actor or a really good producer or whatever. It has somebody who could potentially do some really great things.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Bring life back to this franchise and then hopefully let it die.
We'll see.
Like we don't need Spiral and then Spiral 12, 13, and 14. You know what's
confusing is there's another film out there called Spiral, and it's a recent horror film that you and I watched. It's on Shudder. It's a Shudder exclusive, I think. About the couple that moves out to that cabin that remote cabin. The guy from the first Scary Movie is in it.
Oh yeah,
do you remember?
Yeah.
Which that was a great movie. If
I forgot that was that name.
Right. So if you have Shudder, go check out that Spiral. But then I think there's another Spiral coming out attached to like a different popular horror franchise. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I know that there is another Spiral horror movie coming out. Which, like, you guys. We don't
you talk?
Doesn't everybody in the horror community talk?
Aren't you friends?
Oh, shoot.
Get it together.
So, but yes, like Rhiannon had said, we are just about at time, unfortunately. Duchess, do you want to say hi to the folks? You've been very good this episode.
She has been very good. She deserves a little hello. And Dottie's just laying on the floor there like the little angel baby that she is.
You want to say hi to people? You can go on my shoulders if you like. Oh, her nails. Oh, no.
Do you need me to clip those?
Oh, frick. Oh, good. She tore a good size hole in my new shirt.
Oh, no.
I just got this shirt. Yeah, we should clip her nails.
Okay.
Anyway, we are going to... Okay. I think she's trying to
this
tell
painting,
us.
I guess.
She's trying to tell us something. Yeah, so this is what Rhiannon's been working on, and it's up. It's amazing.
It's what it's gonna be. Here you go. That's what it's gonna be. So we'll see. We'll put it up on our Instagram so you can see a close up. It's a little caricature-y. I couldn't get like all of the dimensions that I wanted to, but I did it in like 45 minutes.
It's so fun.
So that's what it's going to be. So we'll put it up on our Instagram. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
There it is.
So there you go.
Do you want to do our same advice from last week, or do you just want to keep doing new advice?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can think of something new.
You did great last week.
Okay. You got some new advice?
I don't.
Okay. My name's Rhiannon.
My name is Ricky.
Keep washing your hands.
And always wash your butt.
Yeah. Yes. Always
Wait,
wash
what was
butt.
your advice?
Wash your hands. You just used my wash
sure did.
and took a different word. Nope, it's fine.
No,
We're sticking with it.
no.
Nope, that's what it is.
Please.
That's what it is.
Please.
That's what it is.
I'm freaking out.
That's what it is. Wash your hands and wash your butt.
Bye.